Hello everybody out there watching on YouTube, and welcome to the 26th race of Season 7 of the NNSCRA Marvel Studios Cup Series. I am Levi McIntyre, the voice of the NNSCRA Marvel Studios Cup Series, here to welcome you to the Maple Leaf 400 at Toronto Lakeshore Speedway. 46 laps of racing at this mile racetrack. We actually had a decent race here the last time we came here. Now we're back for our second trip to this track, and maybe with extra pit frequency settings, we might have something more to offer out of this track. But as we look at everything on the racetrack, on the front row, James Qualls on the pole with Seth Cole starting right next to him. Let's get the command to fire engines for the Maple Leaf 400 at Toronto.
Drivers, start your engines!
All 40 drivers rolling around for the pace lap, and as I look at the remaining of the top 10 in the starting lineup, Charles Sanford and Raphael Fireblade make up row 2. Row 3, we have Average Joe Enterprise teammates, Julia Katrine and Clint Spillman. Row 4, we have Backmarker Motorsports teammates, Carson Gum and Cole Baker. And then row 5 is Ryan Acosta and our winner from Sawmill last week, Dylan Jacobs. After this race, we got 10 races left in the season. Time running out for these drivers to make final strides at the championship, but it's time to boogity 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 go racing. James Qualls got to lead the first lap, which is huge for him in terms of point standings, as he comes into this race 32nd in points, actually tied for 30th in points, as a matter of fact. He has not been to victory lane in quite a while. If I recall, the last race that he won was at the Denver Roval last season, in what has still got to be the most bizarre finish of any race I've ever seen in the history of NR 2003. And ever since then, he's been on a winless streak, and right now, looking pretty solid here at the early going here at Toronto, but he's got former teammate Charles Sanford breathing down his neck, perhaps waiting for the right moment to go for the move to take the lead. Meanwhile, back here, Julia Katrine up to third since the start of that race, and now Seth Cole, who did start second, has fallen back to fifth, but is maybe looking to try and find a way around Raphael Fireblade. Meanwhile, up front, James Qualls actually starting to pull away a little bit from Charles Sanford. Meanwhile, Raphael Fireblade trying to hold off a charging Seth Cole, but Seth Cole with the run to the inside, trying to make the pass on the 52, but the 52 carrying that momentum on the outside off of 4 was able to help him keep the spot and clear him into turn 1. But does Seth Cole have anything for him here this time by in turn 3, which was where he made the initial move, but doesn't quite go for it just yet. After all, it is just the beginning of this race, and you never know what might happen. Meanwhile, Clint Spillman has actually entered into this battle, and he thought about going to the inside of Seth Cole to take the 5th position away, but doesn't quite go for it. Now he's actually trying to run lower on the racetrack, and he's got the run going. and actually might clear him into turn 1. As even though they're still side by side, Spillman's got the momentum on the bottom to make the pass on the 98, but still doesn't have him quite cleared yet. Now he has him cleared, so Clint Spillman moves up to the 5th position, taking that spot from Seth Cole. Meanwhile, Rafael Fireblade closing in on Julia Katrine in what could be a battle for the 3rd position, as the 52 has been slowly but surely closing in on the 26, maybe waiting for his time to go for a move. Meanwhile, back up at the front, James Qualls has led every single lap, but it hasn't been easy. Charles Sanford has been keeping pace with the 70. In fact, that previous lap, he actually closed in a little bit on the lead that the 70 of James Qualls has. So Qualls hanging on to a very slim lead over former teammate Sanford. Meanwhile, Clint Spillman actually closing in on Rafael Fireblade, as Fireblade looked like his attempt to try and pass Julia Katrine did not pan out, and now Clint Spillman maybe trying to run down the 52, but Seth Cole trying to run back down the 60. Meanwhile, Jay Jefferson hanging out in the 7th position. Now, Jay Jefferson, like I said, he has had such a great season. Moved all the way up to 3rd in points after Sawmill this past week. And his statistics, 3 wins, tied for the most with Zachary Fitzwater and Melissa Alexander. Tied for the most top 5 finishes with 7, along with Joshua Sekuli. 9 top 10s. Tied for the 2nd most with a bunch of other drivers such as Joshua Sekuli, Zachary Fitzwater, Cole Deaver, and Dylan Young. And an average finish of 17.3. And he's 27 points out of the points lead. And man, look at the run he's been getting lap by lap, and he's now caught up to the battle going on for 3rd between these 3. Spillman trying to make the pass on Fireblade. Seth Cole going to move to the bottom to do the same. So too will Jay Jefferson. So Rafael Fireblade more than likely going to be passed by 3 different drivers. So Fireblade, it seems like his run's been halted somewhat. And Jay Jefferson actually going to pass Seth Cole to move up to the 5th position. But does he have a run set for Clint Spillman? It looks like he might. Back up here at the front again, Qualls still leads, but only by less than 4/10 over Sanford. As lap time wise, they're almost even, although Qualls was 1/100th of a second slower than Sanford was. But because the pit frequency was set to 3x, I don't remember if I had it set to that frequency in the previous race we had at this track. And I don't remember off the top of my head in that race when everybody decided to come down pit road. Meanwhile, we got this cluster of cars battling for 3rd. Clint Spillman, man, he just continues to gain position after position. And didn't quite get the spot at the line, but he's got the run on the bottom to make the pass. Plus Seth Cole trying to come back, and Jay Jefferson's run looks like it got a bit halted. Ryan Acosta, on the other hand, in the 10 car, running in the 8th spot, has slowly been closing in on the 5 drivers ahead of him, so he could very well pass all 5 of these to move up from 8th to 3rd. So this is the best battle we got going on back here from 3rd on back to 8th. As all these drivers continue to swap spots around. Meanwhile, back here in the 9th spot is Jordan Forbes, who's kind of off by himself. Same a little bit with Joey Parkhill in the 10th spot. Ryan Acosta already going to make 1 pass. Well, maybe not. And he actually was very slow in 1 and 2 right there. And Julia Katrine was really fast on the outside. So I don't know, maybe the outside line, because of the older tires, perhaps now the outside lane's getting the bigger run than on the bottom. Little interesting change of strategy. Early on, the bottom was where you wanted to be. Now you want to be running the top, especially with having worn out tires. Back up at the front, James Qualls now pulling away big time from Charles Sanford, now to a 1.1 second lead. And if he leads another lap or two, he will have the guaranteed bonus points for most laps led in this race. So by far, this has been James Qualls' best race he's had all season so far. He's led about half of this race from the pole, and now finally, after having Charles Sanford breathing down his neck for so long, starting to pull away, as Sanford is starting to lose a lot of time and ground. Meanwhile, back up in the third spot, Clint Spillman's under attack from Jay Jefferson, as these two have been gradually moving their way up through the field. So these are two drivers we might want to keep an eye out for, especially after pit stops, on who's going to be able to challenge for the lead. But looks like Jefferson's able to still make the bottom work, even though it seems that you want to be running the top when you have older tires on you. But Jefferson was able to use the bottom and make the move work. And where in the world did... Oh, Seth Cole came in the pit road. I thought he'd hit the wall. Well, we are past halfway, so we're guaranteed a one-stop race. Seth Cole was the first person to come down, along with Carson Gum, his teammate, so they were the only ones who elected to come to pit road first. And now here comes the majority of the rest of the field, but some drivers going to risk it and stay out another lap to get some points. And Hannah Klein was the one who led that lap as a result. But she will have to come to pit road very, very soon. And it looks like, yep, she's slowing down to come in. Anybody else coming in? It looks like everyone else is coming into pit road. Nobody going to take the risk and stay out longer. Meanwhile, of the big group of cars, James Qualls got out ahead, along with Charles Sanford, Jay Jefferson, Clint Spillman, and Ryan Acosta. So that could be your top five when we get the field cycled around after the pit stops have concluded. Meanwhile, there's Hannah Klein, who I'm not sure if Rob Evans... I think Rob Evans was tail end of the second group of cars that came to pit road, but now James Qualls has officially cycled around as the leader and has actually now put a few drivers a lap down, so this could really shake up the race as far as like if the lap cars are going to hold up drivers in position. Wait until the field cycles around before we do the official full field rundown of this race right now. More drivers going a lap down, so we're going to have an interesting situation as far as who's going to get bottom five for this week. But we have less than 18 laps to go, so now the field as it stands, we have James Qualls, the leader. Second is Charles Sanford. Third, Jay Jefferson. Fourth is Clint Spillman. Fifth, Seth Cole. Sixth is Ryan Acosta. Seventh, Joey Parkhill. Eighth, Hannah Klein. Ninth, Jordan Forbes. 10th, James Shelley. 11th, Dylan Jacobs. 12th, DJ Curtis. 13th, Zachary Fitzwater. 14th, Ricky Karaman. 15th is Jake Rogers. 16th, Joshua Sakuli. 17th, Raphael Fireblade. 18th, Jonathan Zorline. 19th, Julia Katrine. 20th is Michael Norman. 21st is Caleb Kilburn. 22nd, Jessica Shelton. 23rd, Cole Baker. 24th, Raphael Leduc. 25th is Artur Castanha. 26th is Kyle Matthews. 27th, Zach Rogers. 28th is Alyssa Drayson. 29th, Matt McIntyre. 30th, Johnny Gardner. 31st is Jesse Turner. 32nd, Henry Sanford. 33rd, Dylan Young. 34th, Carson Gum. And then the last car on the lead lap. Or actually, did I get that all mixed up? I feel like I might have mixed that up. Let's wait until this lap. No, 33rd, Carson Gum, 34th, Cole Deaver, and then the last car on the lead lap is Cody Lamas, and then the rest of the drivers on track are a lap down, with Chris Dollarton being the first of those, along with Benjamin Miles, Melissa Alexander, Rob Evans, and Jordan Forbes. Jordan Forbes, I think he was 10th or 9th, and now he's went back into pit road. I don't know what happened, but something has happened to the 77 of Jordan Forbes. Meanwhile, James Qualls actually got passed by Chris Dollarton, and that was for him to get back on the lead lap. And Dollarton has a few cars in front of him to try and get up higher and get more points. Meanwhile, Carson Gum going to be on the short end of that battle, as he's now a lap down. Meanwhile, Jay Jefferson's gone up to second, and is now only 9/10ths back behind James Qualls. So while Qualls has been the dominant car all race, Jay Jefferson has been the steadily faster one. In fact, let's look at the fastest lap. It's actually Dylan Jacobs at a 22.056, but Jefferson definitely has had a faster lap than Qualls throughout the race. Meanwhile, Jefferson getting held up by Carson Gum, and that's actually helping for James Qualls to pull away again. But if Jefferson can get around Carson Gum, he might be able to try and run back down the 70. But yeah, he lost over half of his time. Wow, Carson really slid up the track. I don't know if he entered a corner too high or he took it too fast, but he slid up bad. I thought he was going to get the wall. That was a close call for Carson Gum, and what a save. But now that Jefferson's gotten around the 19, let's see if the 5 can run down the 70 again, especially that the 70's still stuck behind 3 lead lap cars in Cole Deaver, Chris Dollarton, and Cody Lamas. Though he's trying to get around Chris Dollarton. Looking at Jay Jefferson, because he's been gradually moving up through the field. Margin of the lead now only closed in by 1/10 of a second, so not nearly as much as Jefferson would have hoped. But Dollarton is not making it easy for James Qualls to put a lap down. He's fighting to stay on the lead lap. But now it looks like, or does he? No, he's not quite clear. Now Qualls finally clears Dollarton. Meanwhile, that last lap, less than 4/10ths, Jefferson was able to close in on the 70. But Dollarton still hanging on right behind Qualls, so he's maybe still got something to try and get his lap back. And right now he is that last driver in the top 35 to get points, because remember, you do not want to finish below 35th, otherwise no points. And that would not be good for anybody. Dollarton still trying to figure out how to get around Qualls. Meanwhile, Jefferson didn't really gain any time that previous lap, and he's actually starting to lose time as it's now less than 5 laps to go. So I don't know if Jefferson used up all of his tires or Qualls, now that he doesn't have anybody holding him up right now. Qualls just able to run faster. But now he's approaching Cody Lamas, and Dollarton's still hot on his trail. Lamas was actually able to use the outside to clear Qualls, and that might have helped Jefferson a little bit. But I don't know if Jefferson's going to have enough time to get to the 70 unless Lamas really holds him up. And Dollarton maybe passes the 70. Jefferson only gained about 2/10ths that previous lap. But Qualls still trying to get around Lamas, and Lamas is able to use the outside to keep him ahead of Qualls. And Jefferson is closing in, but I don't know if it's going to be enough unless something drastic happens, as it's going to be 2 laps to go at the line. The margin now less than 9/10ths of a second. Lamas holding up Qualls, Dollarton staying right behind him. Even though Jefferson's going to try, I just don't think it's going to be enough time for him to get that pass to work on the 70. As the white flag is out here at Toronto, the margin of the lead now actually grew a little bit, so Qualls didn't get held up quite as bad that previous lap. And all he's got to do is just make sure that the... Whoa! Dollarton almost turned Qualls. But it's not going to be enough for Jefferson as we're coming out of 4. Checkered flag waving. James Qualls wins the Maple Leaf 400 at Toronto. Dominating performance. I believe led every lap except for 1 or 2. Started on the pole and got the W, but man, it was getting nerve-wracking for him at the end, getting held up by lapped cars and Jay Jefferson trying to close in. I feel like if there was another lap or 2, Jefferson might have had a chance at it. But regardless, Qualls finally breaks his winless streak and wins this season. But let's look at the rest of the results. Jay Jefferson, as I said, if there was another lap or 2, he might have had a chance at winning this race, but still phenomenal points run in the second spot here in this race. Charles Sanford, who was pretty much top 3 all race long, finishing in 3rd. Highest finishing rookie was Clint Spillman with another top 5 finish for him, and then Ryan Acosta rounding out the top 5. Joey Parkhill, who'd gradually been moving up through the field much of the race, comes out strong with a 6th place finish. James Shelley, solid performance in 7th. Hannah Klein, who led a lap or 2 early on, or earlier in the race, finishing in 8th. Seth Cole, who was top 10 all race long, finishing 9th. And then Dylan Jacobs rounding out the top 10, but I don't know if he's going to take the points lead over, or Jefferson might. There's your top 20, your top 30, and then the bottom 5 for this week were actually all the drivers that were a lap down. Benjamin Miles, Melissa Alexander, Rob Evans, Jordan Forbes, and Carson Gum. And as you're watching James Qualls do his victory burnout, our next race, it's going to be interesting. We are returning to an old favorite, 8 Bowl Superspeedway for the Castrol 500. But until then, here are your results, rookie points and regular points heading into 8 Bowl. And this is Levi McIntyre, signing off.